Hi guys, I'm Nate from Good Mayhem Racing. I am driving over to a steel supply to get some metal and work on the next Garmin Mount. Garmin Mount 2.0. My telescoping mount was really freaking cool. However, there are ways to improve it, and I was actually in the process of cutting up the mount and welding it anew, and I realized I was going to do so much fabrication on my old mount that it would probably just be worth doing it to a new mount. If you guys remember, my mount was a round tube and a round tube, so it could actually flip-flop around without having something pinning it in place. I need to use box tubing or rectangular tubing to pin it, so then the thing can't just fall over like that. That would make it a much simpler mount to assemble and disassemble in the field. It also would provide that little bit of margin of safety for the person actually working the piece of equipment. The next thing that the rectangular tubing would provide, rather than round tubing, is a way to make the grips on either side of the Garmin be more accessible. What I mean by that is that my little setup assumed that someone would want to grip the Garmin down here like a bicycle or grip it up here like a road bike, and nobody did that. When Steve was riding in it, when my wife has ridden in it, when my friends have ridden in it, everybody has done one of two things: grabbed up here or just have their hands in their lap or grabbing something else. Like the actual bike holder down here, almost no one used. Even though it was practically comfortable to hold, it's still really tiring to keep your hands up all the time. That's the one challenge that a driver in an off-road race has to deal with more than the navigator, is that you're holding the steering wheel up here, it's tiring. If you don't have to do that, just leave your hands down. Navigators can do that if they're not having to push any buttons. So talking with Steve, he said that we could ditch the lower mounts and just keep the upper mount. That also makes it simpler to get in and out of the car, because the lower mount portion of the Garmin setup actually blocks your feet from getting out of the car. It's physically in the way. So that's why I was actually in the process of improving the first mount, was just to reorient that grip so then people with really long legs could clear the mount when they're getting out of the car in a hurry. If I'm going to do that amount of work with fabbing it up, why not just do it on a new mount? Yeah, that's why I'm going to buy steel, because I've been in denial about improving that mount, and for the amount of work I was about to do in my old one, I might as well do that in the new. Where do I buy steel from? There are two big sources of commercial steel that you can buy as a common person without having a business account. One of them is metal supermarkets. The other one is Steel City Supply, or Steel Supply LP. Sorry, got that wrong. The Steel Supply LP guys are in 2 or 3 parts of Houston, and they specialize in selling the raw stock. Metal supermarkets' claim to fame is cutting stuff to length. You can still do that with Steel City a little bit, but not really. The vast majority of the times, you're buying the entire piece of tube or entire piece of stock and then cutting it to fit in the vehicle that you're transporting it in. That's it. With metal supermarkets, you can say, I need 12 inches, and they will charge you for 12 inches. That has a big sliding scale, though. Steel City is in general cheaper than metal supermarkets because you are buying the full bulk material. With metal supermarkets, you're cutting it to length and there's no minimum order, but you have a very expensive short piece versus a less expensive long piece. Sure, you'll spend more money buying the whole 24-foot length of tubing than you would buying a single foot. However, you might be charged 5, if not 10 times the cost for that 1 foot if you had just bought the whole thing. So I remember one time buying a piece of metal for like 18 inches long, and it was $40 when the entire 12-foot long section, I think it was flat bar or something like that, was 80. I mean, that's a huge difference in cost per unit length. And when you are sourcing steels, that cost per foot or cost per pound or cost per whatever unit of measure you want to slap onto it is the way that it's going to get quoted. And the less pounds you buy, the higher the price it's going to be. That's it. So I'm going to Steel City to buy the bulk lengths, because if I go to metal supermarkets, I'm going to be spending a lot more money if I need to do this over a third time. So I am Nate from Good Man Racing. I will see you out in the desert, if not my garage, or perhaps one of these steel supplies while I'm trying to go buy stuff. And thank you so much for watching.